Well, look, I think the framing, Michelle, of this as a choice between COVID and cancer is just wrong to start with. I mean, we have been through a horrendous time over the last 2 years, and we haven't done it for fun. It was serious that the NHS could potentially have been overwhelmed, and a lot of people have died. 150,000 people have died in this country. So it was a serious issue, but now it is time, and this is where I agree with the professor there, it is now time to move from this pandemic state to endemic, and we do have a 6 million waiting list, of which a lot of people do have cancer that's not been diagnosed early. And one of the key things that he said is you've got to catch this stuff early to take the interventions and the treatments. Now, what Sajid Javid's come out and said today is that he wants to try and use some of the technologies that were discovered as part of the vaccine program to try and develop vaccines to tackle cancer. He also wants to use AI and machine learning to try and identify and deal with some of these issues very early. And also, as part of the other thing that was just said, try and catch these things earlier. So preventative measures on smoking and other issues that can affect other cancers. So I think it is time to try and get things back on an even keel. A few months ago, Sajid Javid said the waiting list could go up to 12 million, which would absolutely be horrendous. So we do need to coin a phrase, take back control of the health service. But I think it was quite right that they did prioritise COVID for the last couple of years, particularly before the vaccine rollout occurred.
Do you? See, Ben Habib, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's very interesting. I mean, the notion that the NHS had to be saved and we all had to lock ourselves up is a fundamentally flawed notion. The NHS was never going to fail. What would have happened was that the NHS wouldn't have been able to treat the people that needed treatment. But it's an entirely different result. It's an entirely different theme to the theme that the NHS needed saving. And what's actually happened, and Ali's touched on some of the statistics, is in its pursuit of treating COVID at the expense of all other things, the waiting list has gone from 4 million to 6 million. 4 million was bad enough. It's now at 6. Forecast to go to 8, and some are now saying 12. So with its predilection for COVID, the government has actually imperiled the NHS. It's in a much more difficult position now than it was before the pandemic. And what they practiced effectively was political triage. They decided that it was COVID patients who were going to get priority over all other patients. And I thought Carol's analysis was superb. And his conclusion really is we've got to get back to normal. It's not a matter of focusing on COVID over cancer or cancer over cardiovascular disease. Anyone who's who knows anything about the functioning of any organisation knows that if you're going to make an ecosystem like an organisation work properly, you have to have a holistic, balanced approach to the problem. You've got to tackle everything simultaneously to the best of your ability.
Ben, it's a lot easier to do that when you've got vaccines that work, which we now do.
It is, but the mistake, if a mistake was made, I think, early on, was this notion that COVID is the killer that's going to trump all other ailments. As Carol said, the average age of death is beyond the average life expectancy. You know, a very cogent argument can be made to suggest that actually those people who died were going to die anyway pretty soon, and COVID tipped them over. And if you look back at total deaths, 2018, 2019, so pre-pandemic, 2020, 2021, and coming into 2022, actually total deaths per annum have hardly budged. COVID hasn't really dented total annual deaths, in the UK.